We got to talk about Oklo. It's the hottest stock in the commodity market in 2025. It went absolutely nuclear last week. We got to talk about what happened, what really happened, because that's not what you read in the press, what you should do if you're a shareholder, and what you need to know if you want to get in on this action. This is going to be a good one. It's going to be important if you're interested in Oklo or if you invest in Oklo. Let's get into it. Welcome to Hot Trades of the Day, your show for swing trading ideas for the coming days, weeks, and month. Here's a chart of Oklo. Incredible. It went absolutely banana crazy in the past week, up like 65%. This is like a billion-dollar company. It's not some Uranium Junior Explorer penny stock. What is going on? What happened? Well, we'll get into the facts, the real facts, and then we got to look at the company and where the stock is and everything. So let's start with this. The uranium stocks have broken out to the upside. The uranium price has not, but the stocks have. The White House is creating more and more positive tailwinds for the US uranium sector and nuclear energy sector, and that's what's fueling, nice wordplay here, Wilhelmi, give me that one, the rally in the stocks. Oklo, because of its past performance, is basically the alpha stock. So if you want to get in on the nuclear trade in the past, before last week, you basically played Oklo because it would outperform the uranium stocks when there was a rally. Now, you see here in the chart, we had a nice consolidation in the summer, and then we had a breakout of this triangle formation, and then after it, we were off to the races. So chart-wise, we got green lights, we're running. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I missed it. And here's the signal that you knew something was up. And again, I didn't catch it either. And that is, look at the RSI down here, right? We were still in the triangle formation, but here we were already starting, even though we still had this downtrend here, we were starting to form a higher high in the RSI. That was telling us something was up, right? And that should have been the canary in the coal mine to get ready to buy, and then a breakout, and here we go, party time. Excellent. The fundamental reason why all the SMR stocks went crazy, but especially Oklo, is that the US and the UK did a nuclear collaboration agreement to cut the permitting process for nuclear facilities basically by 50%. So the UK now envisions the full permitting process that used to be 3 to 4 years to be 2 years, and the US wants to have it done in a year and a half anyway, which is incredibly fast. Obviously, that's fantastic news for the SMR companies, and Energy Secretary Chris Wright also said that he wants to pursue partnerships like this with more nations, basically selling SMR technology from the US companies, which Oklo is one of, to other countries. Great news, no doubt, right? Is it news that justifies that the valuation of Oklo went up 65%? And this is where things get really interesting, because Oklo is a very unique stock and a very unique company. Me and one of my partners found the stock summer, early fall last year. So we can go out and you can see that was not the worst idea we ever had, because, you know, we're basically more than, almost close to a 20 bagger, right? we try to talk to Oklo, crickets. They're not talking to anybody. They keep their technology extremely secretive. Fair enough. But we need to realize when we see a stock chart like this, look at the RSI, how extended it is. It's, by the way, the highest RSI level that this stock has ever had. Warning sign going on right here. They don't have a product on the market. They make almost no revenue. They burn money. They make no profits. Now, that's not a problem. They'll be able to raise money, no big deal, right? But this is not like Nvidia, where we saw a crazy rise in the Nvidia stock because the revenues were exploding, because the profits were exploding in ways that we had rarely seen before. On the revenue side, we had seen it in the early days of the internet. I was in the market back then, but these firms were all burning money. They were not making money. So that's very unique. So basically the Nvidia stock went up, but since the profits went up so much, the valuation didn't really increase. This is not the case with Oklo, okay? This is now a $20 billion company. US, not Canadian, okay? So if you are long Oklo, then you need to be really convinced about something that you know nothing about and that I know nothing about, because there's no information out there. Do yourself a favor, go to the Oklo homepage and look at the investor presentation. It is the most amount of slides of blah, 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 without telling you anything about what the company really does technology-wise that you'll ever see. That doesn't mean that the technology doesn't work or that they won't put out a great product, which by the way, they're planning to do by the end of 2027. So we're about 2 years out. Now, stock price shot up through the moon, valuation 20 billion. So a lot of what they're saying is going to happen in 2028 has already been pulled into today's stock price. I'm not the only one that sees this. And because of this situation, and here's the true reason why the stock exploded last week, and especially on Friday, this stock has a crazy high short interest. And with a stock like this, the size it has, which was basically around $10 to $12 billion by the beginning of last week, that's not a couple of retail investors that throw out some put options. That's institutions, that's hedge funds shorting the stock. And that's exactly what happened. We had quad witching last Friday and they all got burned. They got flamethrower to the face, burned, and they had to buy the stock no matter what. And that is the true reason why the stock exploded last week and especially on Friday. They got margin called. I mean, there are quite a few people that didn't have a... If you thought you had a bad week last week, no, you did not have a bad week last week compared to some of the hedge funds that were short Oklo. Okay, they had a bad week. That's the true reason. The agreement, US-UK, that's great. That's very positive. Doesn't justify the stock price going up like this. So here's the thing. I have seen this before. I've seen this new economy boom at the end of the 90s when I was in the market. I've seen this in the last commodity super cycle where we also saw this with uranium stocks. Now, the fundamentals back then were not nearly as good as they are now. Absolutely. You know, if you follow this channel, and if you don't follow this channel, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss information like this that not that many people talk about very openly. I'm a big fan of nuclear energy and the uranium stocks. But we also got to concede and keep our cool when things go crazy like they do with Oklo right now. Could the stock double from here? Yes. Why? Because the short interest is likely still high. So just so you understand, by the end of August, right? By the end of August, short interest in Oklo was about 11%. Usually, with any healthy company, it's about 1 to 2%. If you have a company that's in trouble with their business model, with their earnings, with their revenues, you see 5%. Over 10%, that's usually what you see with a company that's about to go bankrupt, which was never on the horizon for Oklo at all, right? That is insanely overvalued, which clearly what the hedge funds thought what it was, or they sniffed out something. I've seen the sniffing out part a couple of times in my 25 years in the market. So do I think Oklo could be the case? I don't know. That's the point. I don't know. You don't know either. And basically, nobody outside of the Oklo inner circle and very well-connected people in Silicon Valley and in the White House know what's going on. So would I get in at a $20 billion valuation on a black box like this? I would not. Here's how you need to think about this. And maybe this will help you, because it sure helped me back in the day. So Oklo's $20 billion. For the same $20 billion, I can buy UEC, the whole company, Energy Fuels, the whole company, UR Energy, the whole company, Denison Mines, the whole company, and Next Gen Energy, the whole company, and I still have $2 billion to go to Ibiza and have a good time. And if you can't have a good time on Ibiza with $2 billion, what are you doing with your life? So do I want a black box company that may change nuclear energy and nuclear energy reactors as we know it, but we don't know if they actually can do it because we really literally don't know anything about their technology? Or do I want 3 of the 4 biggest uranium producers in the US and the 2 companies with the 2 best advanced developmental uranium projects in Canada for the same price? And again, you get Ibiza on top with option 2. If you put it like this, it's very clear you need to be very careful. Would I short the stock here? Absolutely not. You do not step in front of a train like this. You're going to get run over. Yes, maybe you get lucky. Maybe things will sort themselves out next week and Oklo could be down easily, could be down 20%. Because it was basically artificial short covering that pushed the price up like this. But you don't know this. And I don't know this either, so I'm staying away from this stock on the short side for sure. What would I do if I was invested in it? Let it run. Let it run. But would I buy into the stock at this valuation? Absolutely not. Because I just showed you how big the valuation of Oklo is right now compared to what you can get for the same amount of money with other uranium stocks. And I personally rather have 3 of the 4 biggest uranium producers in the US and the 2 companies with the 2 best advanced developmental uranium projects in Canada for the same price. That's how I see it. So the uranium sector itself, it's overheated, but it's also very small and it's super, super hot right now. I've been expecting a correction for a while, and to be quite frank and honest, it hasn't come. There was a correction, but it was over time, not over price. So if the market goes into a correction, let's say in October, which I anticipate coming, the uranium stocks, which are the most speculative segment of the commodity stocks, except for the junior explorers, they will correct. They can easily go down 10-15%. So I would wait for this. At some point it's going to come. It's super hot right now, and I know it hurts. Trust me, it hurts. I see the prices go up every day, and you're like, man, I wish I was in it. But we got to keep our cool here. And this also goes for Oklo. If you were in Oklo, Jeff's kiss to you and congratulations to the profits. But don't think that things will go to the moon and go crazy. Be careful here. Just don't go nuts. If you like this content, hit the subscribe button. And we see us in a couple of days on Wednesday again. We're going back to 3 days a week after we got quad witching out of the way and the Fed decision. And then, by then, well, who knows? Maybe we have to talk about Oklo again in one way or another. Have a great start to the new week. Bye-bye.